Welcome to the Power in Motion podcast, the show for women who want to develop a kinder relationship with their body so you can feel healthy, happy, and confident without restricting food, doing torturous exercise, or constantly worrying about the number on the scale. I'm your host, Kim Hagel, size-inclusive fitness specialist and certified non-diet health and life coach specializing in body image. This podcast is here to provide weight-neutral, health at every size aligned information and coaching on sustainable habits and mindset shifts so you can feel your very best in the body you have right now. Let's lace up our runners and go for a walk while we chat. Well, hello, friends, and welcome back to the Joyful Movement Show. I'm your host, Kim Hagel, personal trainer, body image coach, and registered holistic nutritionist. This is episode 68, and today we are talking all about the facts around joint pain and weight. This is part 2 of a 4-part series where we're really dismantling all of the myths around weight and health. And one of those big ones that I hear often in my practice is the belief that joint pain is caused by having a higher body weight, or that we can improve the amount of pain we have in our joints by losing weight. So I wanted to invite an expert on to really dig into this and what the science says and if that's true or not. And if it's not true, what we can do instead. So we're joined on the show today by Alexandra Ellis. She is the creator of AE Wellness and the host of the Body Nerd Show. Alex is a mobility coach and wellness expert who helps active people move smarter, maintain their bodies, and maximize strength with customized wellness plans so they can enjoy life without pain. We had a really great conversation today. Alex calls herself the Body Nerd. That's the name of her podcast. So we really geeked out on all things body and pain related, but it's a really valuable conversation. And inside, you're going to learn why it's really important when you work with a fitness professional that they teach you why they're prescribing certain movements. Because it's important that you build that body awareness and learn how your body moves most effectively so that you can improve your movement patterns in everyday life to keep yourself feeling your best and moving your best and staying out of pain. We talked about what the research says about joint pain and weight, and also all of the other confounding factors that are more likely contributing to joint pain, and also that you can easily address to see improvements in how you feel. Alex shared some tips about body maintenance, those things that we can do to help address the root cause of your joint pain. And she gave 3 really simple steps that you can very simply do at home with hardly any equipment that'll get you moving better and feeling better in under 15 minutes a day. It's a fantastic conversation. Alex also mentions in the episode about a free resource that she has for you, which is a free foam rolling starter guide. And I've linked that up in the show notes, and she gives the link inside as well. All of the other links that we talked about are shared in the show notes. So we'll dive right in. I hope that you love this conversation as much as I did. Oh, hi, Alex. Welcome to the Joyful Movement Show. I'm so excited to have you here and to be chatting with a self-professed body nerd about how we can all move better and feel better. Thanks so much for being here with me today.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. I'm really stoked to be here.
Well, I'm really looking forward to this conversation. One of the big questions I hear a lot in my work is in regards to body weight and joint pain, and this big belief that we have to lose weight or control our weight to get out of pain or to reduce our pain. And I know you have a really refreshing outlook on all of that, and I'm really looking forward to diving in.
Yeah.
But before we do, can you tell us a little bit about how you came to be doing the work that you're doing now?
Yeah, absolutely. So I actually started working in a yoga studio when I was in high school. After soccer practice, I was helping to digitize their database, like very nerdy. So the body nerd, I've always been a nerd. That's nothing new. It's just always been. And then when I went to college, I was studying exercise biology. And anatomy, like I loved it. And it was just so confusing, right? Because it's all this stuff on, on a PowerPoint or paper or on a cadaver. And it like the connection between like that's in you, like you have the whole cheat sheet here, was really difficult to like figure out, even though I was working as a student athletic trainer. And once I graduated, I started teaching yoga as well. And I also I felt like, man, I just spent 4 years studying movement and biology and like biomechanics. And now I'm teaching yoga and I want to bring the two together. Like, how can I bridge that gap so it feels that this knowledge isn't just, sitting somewhere? And so I found a modality called Yoga Tune-Up, created by Jill Miller. I did my training through them, and they are like the nerdiest of body nerds and anatomy nerds. And that was like the doorway I needed to figure out, cool, here's how I can talk about yoga, but then also talk about anatomy and how the two are connected. And that just naturally led to, and personal trainers, yoga teachers, movement professionals of all sorts. How many times do we have a client who comes to us, it's like, my elbow hurts, what should I do? And I was like, well, you know what? I actually have an idea, obviously staying within my lane and my scope of practice, but like, oh, what if we tried this? And what if we tried that? And really creating a space where it was more about the exploration of movement and fitting the pose to your body and meeting you where you're at, rather than saying, this is what it should look like, shove yourself into this at all costs, regardless of how it feels. And when I started to really bring in therapy ball work as well, so some self-massage, so think foam rolling, but smaller and more precise. People, like, you could literally see it in their face in a matter of minutes, what a change it makes to just get touch into our bodies. And I have experienced in my life, injuries galore, right? When you move your body, like, life happens. And I was using therapy balls and, the mobility work and the strengthening work that I was doing to help my body feel better, and to also help myself then have better conversations with my healthcare providers. So when I go to the physical therapist, hey, I've been trying X, Y, and Z, and I'm still feeling this. What do you think it is? Which is a way different conversation than, hey, it hurts, can you fix me? Right. And so, as I started to continue to work with clients, it's like, cool, how can I literally download my brain and give that to you so that you also are empowered with the knowledge of your body, so that sensations that come up aren't so scary? Because I think that's the biggest thing too, right? With injuries and pain.
Sure.
Because you go to Dr. Google and 2 clicks in, you're like, I have cancer.
I'm dying. I'm dying.
Yeah. It's awful and it's terrifying. And there's so many like gatekeepers, I feel like, too, of the knowledge of your body. And so when you understand more, you can be more discerning as well of the types of people you work with, and find the people who are willing to collaborate with you, rather than just tell you like, oh, well, surgery is your only option. Because that happens far too frequently.
Yeah, for sure. I love that approach of like you say, downloading everything that's in your brain and giving it to your clients to empower them to be the boss of their body. Because I think that's a real weakness in the fitness industry, is that we're always just telling everybody what to do and not teaching them
100%.
how or why. Right. And then they always feel like they need us to boss them around when, if we can empower them with those skills and knowledge themselves, they can make the best decision for themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to add to that as well with, more online training. I moved my business entirely online in 2020. And I had already been online for many years before. I think my first digital course was like 2012. And so that was a time where people were like, oh, I guess I have to try online learning and training because I have no other choice. But what I've seen time and time again is when you are working with someone, like you're saying, who's there and telling you like, drop your shoulders, drop your shoulders, drop your shoulders, or drop your ribs, or like whatever it is, you learn to listen to their cue. But you're not actually learning how to do it,
how it feels.
Yourself. And having that own body awareness to know, like, where is my body in space? Can I make that micro adjustment? Because that's going to ultimately help me feel better. And so even like now with potential private clients, like, well, but I mean, are you going to look at me move? And I'm like, no, I'm going to teach you how to do that for yourself, like you said, like to be the boss of your own body,
Mhm.
because even if you see your trainer 7 days a week, they're not there in the middle of your night when you're going to get your kid out of their bed or whatever, and your
True.
shoulders are up to your ears and your back is like, so learning how to do these things for ourselves sets
Right.
us up so that even when we're tired, even when it's the last rep, even when it's, the middle of the night, you have banked enough repetitions to do it in a way that's
Mhm.
more efficient and
Yeah.
better, for lack of a better
Yeah.
word, for your
Yeah.
body.
Yeah. Yeah. When we can take what we do in the gym and translate it into real life, that's where the real wins are found.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, I'm always excited when I meet another non-diet personal trainer or movement professional because there are, well, more of us these days, but we're a small but mighty little group. So tell me, have you always operated from the non-diet perspective, or is that something that you transitioned as you worked in the industry and learned things?
Yeah, well, I have to give a shout out to my business bestie and best friend, Sybil, who really opened my eyes to this world. Because my yoga training, which I mentioned, we had a class that I assisted on for many years and taught as well, that was open for everybody. So people with MS, other mobility issues, Parkinson's, like all kinds of people would walk through the door, and everybody and anybody was welcome. And so that really opened my thought to the possibility, like, of course, like movement is for everybody, and it doesn't have to look a certain way. Movement
Mm,
for you might just be laying on your back and breathing. That's fantastic.
yeah.
That doesn't make it any, less quality, so to speak, than, someone who can do like burpees or whatever.
Hmm.
And so when I went out into the world, with my yoga training and, furthering my experience into the fitness industry, I was like, oh my goodness, like everyone is really focused on like burning the calories and like all this weight loss and all this stuff. And it never felt natural for me because that never was my
Mm,
training. And so I saw lots of like my peers and my colleagues struggling with this new paradigm of like, no, let's fit the movement to your body and not the other way around. And I was like, oh, I thought we were all doing this. And
yeah.
so when I met Sybil, it actually was over a cadaver. We were at an anatomy, so as a body nerd, I did anatomy in college, and then I did a full week cadaver dissection for funsies, but also
Oh,
for learning. And then I
cool.
did another one, like anytime the opportunity comes up, because every body literally is so unique, I always jump at the opportunity because you can't learn it all from a book. You just can't.
Hmm.
So Sybil is, she's an esthetician, and also a total nerd. And she's also in a larger body. So as she started coming to my classes, and, we started working together privately, she's like, there's like this whole world of people who are teaching in the way that you're teaching, and this movement of healthy at every size, you should really check it out. And so following her, push, I found people like you. And I was just like, yes, like, how do I communicate to people that how your body feels right now is not necessarily related to what your body looks like,
Yeah.
and more related to how your body is currently moving. And
Hmm.
so if there is pain or injuries or a mobility issue that's impacting how you're moving, how can we use that and work with that? And honestly, like the rest of it doesn't really matter.
Right.
And also what I found, and probably you have found this as well, is as you start to tell people like, hey, yeah, you don't need to lose weight to get out of pain, they get very challenged
Yeah. Yeah.
with their previously held ideas. Because there's both sides of the spectrum, right?
Hmm.
You post on social media and there's people who say, okay, well, that can't be true because that's not my personal experience. And
Uh,
then there's people on the other side of the spectrum who's like, yep, that was 100% my experience.
mhm.
And even if you dig into the research, which also is really fascinating because it depends on what you Google, what you
Yeah.
search. If you're looking for research articles that use the word obesity, there's a lot of search of, or a lot of articles like back pain and obesity, correlation. And even in their articles and their results, they're not able to say like this happened definitively. It's like, well, maybe
Hmm.
there was some change, but it wasn't permanent. And so we can't really say, we really want to say that they're connected, but we can't really say it. And then when you search for adiposity, which is the, you know, anatomical term for an accumulation of fat tissue, there's like a whole different side of research over there. So it's like the fat phobia in the research comes out as well. The science, there's no definitive link between losing weight and getting out of pain. Could they be related? Perhaps. But again, each person's individual story matters as well. And so like, this is the hill I'm willing to die on, is that you don't need to lose weight to get out of pain. You could just start moving. Like, let's start there. Yeah. So it happened organically. And then as I dug my heels in more, because this is the hill I'm willing to die on, I will say it again. There's so many people who have, you know, reached out, like thanks for saying that, or I now feel like I can take that next step where I didn't before. And if that means that you have that extra body knowledge to, again, be able to advocate for yourself and be your own like boss of your body with your healthcare providers, acupuncturists, chiropractor, physical therapy, like whatever, then that to me is a win.
Oh yeah.
100%.
Yeah. Big time. Oh, I love everything that you stand for. And I already can tell that you are a wealth of knowledge. And I mean, I follow your podcast too, which we'll talk about at the end, but I know you are a brilliant person. So I really want to dig into this topic of weight and joint pain specifically. And you brought up a few points there as you were talking, but I want to elaborate on them a little more. Mm-hmm. You mentioned healthy at every size, which is something that I talk on the show quite a bit about, that, you know, health and weight are two different things, that we don't have to achieve a quote normal BMI in order to be healthy. And it seems to me, at least what I notice, is that even if people can kind of get on board with that concept, there's still this like one last thing, which is but I have to lose weight because my joints hurt. And if like that, it's just simple math is what they say. Like there's that much gravitational force on my joints. If I had less mass, there would be less force and my joints wouldn't hurt as much. So it's like, it's this one little exception to HAES or health at every size. So why do you think it is that we hold that belief in the first place? Is it as simple as the math, the formula, or is there more going on?
Well, why do we believe that in the first place? That's a challenge. That's a long conversation, which I mean, I feel like, you know, even the BMI too is just so rooted in, you know, racist ideas that are not based on science. And then, you know, health insurance companies are like, well, we need something, let's use this. And then that just became like weaponized for people to say like, your body is good and your body is bad. And by the way, it's all your fault. You're a terrible person, which is just like, okay, sure. Oh yeah. But you know, have you seen the movie The Santa Claus?
Yeah.
With Tim Allen.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you know how he like wakes up the next morning and he is the Santa Claus again. And he's had this dramatic body composition change overnight. Like that's not how it exists in our life as well. Right. Things happen gradually. And as things happen gradually, your tissues change as well. You know, ligaments improve their strength. The muscles are also able to, you know, hold you differently. So because this life doesn't exist like the Santa Claus, this gradual change isn't as simple as like, well, it's more weight, therefore it must be harder. Now, could there also be a component that, I mean, again, it comes back to movement, like how you're standing, how you're carrying yourself changes. I think also about in pregnancy, for example, where your center of mass has changed. But then you also have the addition of all of these hormones that are relaxing every joint in your body. And then we get, you know, like pubic symphysis, for example, at the pubic bone and all of that, which is a combination of how you're carrying the weight, which has been more, even that is gradual as well. But all that is to say, right, that it's not as simple as an equation because, again, you can move. There are people who have all different sizes of bodies, who have pain, who don't have pain, who can run marathons, who can run ultra marathons, who can't run ultra marathons. And so to say definitively across the board that it's simply because of the size of your body, it doesn't add up at all.
No, it doesn't hold true across the board. So what does the research say then? Like, I know you said you can go to Google and find all kinds of different information that contradicts each other. Is there anything definitive on this topic of weight and joint pain?
No, not that I
No.
was able to find. Nope. A lot of attempts to make this correlation. But even within the research, like, the title starts, like I said, like lower back pain and obesity. And then even in their research, they're like, yeah, we're not able to say definitively that these two are connected, although we did see some change, but we can't say that that was the cause per se.
Right.
And even if we're looking at, adiposity, like I said, when you look for the more scientific term, that research, there's way less fat phobia in those research articles, which I thought was very interesting. And even in that one I was looking at inflammation and joint inflammation. And they, if there's more adipose tissue, potentially there's also an increase in inflammation. But even that, they couldn't say definitively there was a link between the two. So I think that science really wants to prove that point, and yet hasn't been able to do that with the research, no matter how they, tweak it. But then also, when have we ever collectively as a society definitively said, well, research says, and then everybody follows suit? Even something far less like controversial, icing, for example, and icing when you have pain. Has been research that shows that icing slows down it constricts blood vessels, right? When you have an injury, there are inflammatory chemicals that come to the area that are helping to rebuild the injury anyways. And icing could potentially be slowing that process down. It could be slowing the healing down. Also, there hasn't been any research to show how deep the cold actually penetrates. So let's say you're icing your knee. Sure, the sensory nerves on the surface are numb, but is it actually doing anything inside the joint? Again, no research from that. And yet anybody you ask, this hurts, cool, you should ice it.
Put ice on it. Yep. Yeah. So we're not awesome at listening to the research.
No.
But here's the thing, like with studies, is to get a definitive result and to prove causation, we need to be able to control all of the variables, and there can't be any other confounding factors, right? There has to be like a clear cause that, yes, your weight is the cause of your pain. And like you say, they can't do that. There might be correlations, but what are some of those other confounding factors? Like, what else could be contributing to the joint pain or lack thereof?
Yeah, honestly, it comes back to, stress levels, which is a very unfortunate response because we're all stressed, period.
Right.
Movement for sure, like how much movement you're doing. Are your hips and lower back tight and painful because they're tight and painful, or is it because you have to sit for 8, 10, maybe 14 hours a day between work and life? And then also alignment comes into it as well. I don't often lead with posture because it's not sexy and no one wants to talk about posture. But if you can get your bones in better alignment so that your muscles and tissues are in their optimal positions to do their job, then it's less work for your entire body. So take your head, for example. You may have heard this, right? For every inch your head comes forward, it's like another 10 pounds of force for your upper back and neck to have to work against. Our heads are super heavy. Okay. Right. It's like a bowling ball. It's balanced on top of a teeny tiny toothpick that is your neck. And the same goes for you. Like, let's say you're holding a pumpkin in your arms. If you hold it close to your body, it's easy. If you hold it out further away from you, right? This is just physics. It's harder because the lever is longer. So the same thing happens with our head and neck. So head comes forward because we're staring at things in front of us. We're staring at devices in our lap. Our eyes are on the front of our heads. Like, as mammals, it's just like we want to lean into the thing we're interacting with. And then the neck gets tight. And then we start having migraines. We start having jaw pain. We start having all of these issues. So should I just be stretching the neck, or really the true kind of resolution to that is learning how to get your head back on top of your shoulders, right? Addressing any tension that is limiting that because it's also not as simple as just stand up straight, right? It doesn't work. So maybe that means, working on the tension through the front of the shoulders, working definitely on the tension through the upper traps and all of that. And then strengthening your body to be able to hold you for the whole day in these better positions.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
When you say it that way, it sounds so simple, but I recognize too.
It really does.
It's harder in practice just because it takes consistency.
Right.
I had an email from someone the other day too, who was just like, oh yeah, I was doing, a challenge. I did all the videos you did. It was super, super helpful. And then I stopped and it all came back. And it's like, yeah, body maintenance and mobility, to me, it's the same as brushing your teeth, right? If you don't brush your teeth for a week, it gets gross in there. But we also then don't go to our dentist like, hey, can you fix this? Right? We do the in-between kind of maintenance work so that then the dentist can check in and do their job. And all I'm saying is that you can do the same thing for your body as well. And it also doesn't have to take more than 15 minutes a day.
Yeah. And that's good to know too, because we think that this is so much work, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, so what I heard there is that, is it the weight, or is it the fact that you're sitting in a chair, leaning over a desk, or, I don't know, doing a physically demanding job where you're not moving efficiently and effectively? And what about high intensity activity in the past? Could that be contributing to pain that we're feeling now? Explosive movements and, I don't know, running or jumping or things like that. Might that be contributing to pain that we're feeling today?
Yeah. So pain science is such an interesting rabbit hole to go into as well. Because, there's a lot of what we're understanding about how your brain and body experience pain is newer. So with an injury, let's say, you sprained an ankle, and it still hurts, but it's been 3, 4, 5 years later. All of the tissue healing that's going to happen, that initial, whether it be a sprain, a strain, even if you ruptured something, that tissue healing is going to happen in that first 6 weeks even. And once you've reached that point, anything that's going to be repaired has been repaired. When pain persists after that, it falls under what we call chronic pain. And that's where things start to get more complex, because it may not necessarily be related to a structural thing. Bulging discs and lower back issues are similar. I can't remember what journal it was in, but there was a study where they did MRIs of 50 different lower backs of people with pain and without pain. And people even who had no pain had bulging discs. So the structural misalignment, the structural problem, the, initial injury per se, isn't necessarily related to the pain you're experiencing today, because your brain learns pain like a habit. That's not to say that it's all in your head. Absolutely not. But we can't separate the brain component from pain, and look exclusively at the body. So that's where therapy ball massage comes in, and why it's so critical to the work that I do, because it's touch. And the nervous system and the nerves that are sending information up to your brain are sending either movement signals of where you are in space, or how hard this table feels, or how hard the chair you're sitting on feels, or they're able to send pain. Ouch, this hurts. I stepped on a tack, or, something scratchy, whatever. So proprioception, that's the movement piece, and nociception, that's the pain piece. Those signals travel on the same nerves going up to your brain. Only one signal can be sent at a time. So if you bang your shin on a futon, also, my gosh, my parents had a futon as a kid. There's nothing but bruised shins with that. I don't know why we had it.
Yeah, they're evil.
But, they're evil, terrible. Maybe not every time, but a lot of the times, right? You smack something, or even you burn something. What's your first instinct? It's to rub it. Right. So instinctually already, we know this to be true. If I do some other sensory input, that hurts less. And so the same applies even if you've had pain for a long time. If I can get some non-painful stimulus, such as a
Uh-huh.
therapy ball on the area to almost like interrupt that pain signal. Now you have decreased pain sensation in that area. You also have better range of motion because we've relaxed the tissues. And then I pair that with a strength building activation, which is just like some exercise. So different from in the personal training world, like a side plank, for example, I'm not going to do, 15 set or 3 rounds of 15 for strength. It might be as simple as like 2 or 3, just to like get all of those muscles firing and all of those tissues firing in good position with this new range of motion without pain. And that done consistently, you basically retrain your brain how to move without pain.
Wow. That's fascinating.
Yeah. It's just like,
Like
what?
mic drop.
Yeah.
Wow.
But it is, I think so often too, we're really tied down to what our MRI says, what the X-ray says, what this diagnosis has been. And while that information is helpful to a point, I strongly believe that there's so much you can change that doesn't require surgery all the time. For the ankle sprain, for example, I had an awful ankle sprain in like, I don't know, 2016. And my ankle's not exactly the same. Like there's definitely more laxity there, but it doesn't hurt. And to me, like that's more important. I can work on the strength and I can work on the awareness. But as long as I don't have pain, then it's not stopping me
Right. You're not limited
doing what
by
I want
it.
to do.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So cool. So what I'm hearing in all of this is pain is really complex. I think that's what you said. Like
Yeah.
there's no one cause, or like we just can't pinpoint and
Mm-mm.
say like if you're in pain do this. Like there's so much more going on. So it doesn't make sense that weight takes all of the blame for our pain. There's
No.
so many factors. Doesn't make sense.
Mm-hmm.
But what do you say to the person who says, but I'd had less pain and I moved better when I was in a smaller body?
Mm. Mm-mm. Well, why don't we see what happens now if we get you started with this? And so oftentimes too, I think that people get hung up on the idea of like what counts as movement.
Uh,
Oh, I have to like I hear people say all the time, oh, well, I only walked for like 3 miles, but like that doesn't count. And it's just like, that's still three
yeah, it
miles
does.
whether you run it, jog it, skip it, like crawl it, like whatever, 3 miles is 3 miles, like walking counts as movement. And I also, so that's part of it. It's just kind of like rethinking about movement and what counts as movement. I feel like there's sort of like movement encompasses a ton of different stuff. It might be as simple, like right now, as I'm talking to you, I'm standing on a, like a standing mat barefoot. And that's extra movement and strength for my feet.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. I went on a walk with my dog. That's movement for my body as well. I personally, today is not a day that I'm going to do a higher intensity workout, but that doesn't mean I didn't move today. And that
Right.
doesn't mean that the movement I did today, like, doesn't also count.
Yeah.
So
It doesn't benefit you.
yeah. So starting people and for that person as well, it's like, cool, well, let's start you with this and see how it goes. And I feel
Mm-hmm.
like so often putting the like the ownership of that and the responsibility of that in that person's hands
Mm-hmm.
goes like light years and progress for them, rather than relying on somebody else to deliver that relief.
Mm-hmm.
So I think of, physical therapy, and I worked in a physical therapist's office as an aide for a number of years out of college. And you could see the difference between the people who were like, yeah, I'm just here so you can fix me. And the people who are like, no, I want to do the work,
Yeah. Yep.
So yeah, I feel like part of me sometimes I just kind of like, I'm gonna just like skirt around that, because it's also sometimes people are like, well, I know I need to lose weight. I'm like, cool, that's not my lane. What I'm here to help you with is to move better and feel better. So let's get you moving now with something that feels doable and that's also sustainable. And if that
Mm-hmm.
means
Mm-hmm.
that you're just rolling your feet out for 10 minutes a day, fantastic. We can complicate it later, but let's just get you in the habit, because that's the hardest thing to actually stick with.
Yeah. Yeah. And I always say to my clients, like it's the habits, right? Like you say, when
Yeah.
it wasn't necessarily that you were smaller that was the reason you had less pain. It was the things you were doing when you might have been in a smaller body. Like you were taking care
Hmm.
of your body, you were doing those body maintenance tasks, you were moving, like you were doing things that contributed to you having less pain. It wasn't about how you looked or the size
No.
or the amount of
Yeah.
space you took up. It was the habits you had more so. And all of those other confounding factors that, could be contributing to what you're experiencing
Hmm.
today.
1000%.
Yeah. So, what's coming through to me loud and clear is the importance of body maintenance.
Hmm.
Right? So, if losing weight is not the answer, it sounds like taking care of your body is how we move past pain or how we like at least reduce it and
Yeah.
feel and function our best, as you said. So can you summarize your top 3 or 4 tips that you have for people to take on body maintenance and like start caring for their body as it is today so they can feel and move better?
Yeah. I would say pick a area of like, I'd say most importance to you right now. So if you're like, I'm
Mhm.
waking up every day with neck pain, cool, let's work on your neck. And then stepping back and thinking of that body area as almost like a cube. So oftentimes with pain, right, we think, well, it hurts here. This must be the only place that I should be working on because, it hurts at this right spot.
Mhm.
When sometimes the issue might be, around the corner or
Mhm.
underneath or
Mhm.
somewhere else. So think of that area like a cube and make sure you're addressing all sides of it
Mhm.
with not only some sort of massage for all the reasons that we've talked about.
Mhm.
And you could do this with a tennis ball if you have a tennis ball at home. I love, specific types of therapy balls. I have them on my site, but honestly, like whatever you have, just use that. If you're like, I got a foam roller, fantastic. Use a foam roller. If you only
Mhm.
have a playground ball from your kids, fantastic. That works too. Just roll on something.
Mhm.
And then start to work on some of those alignment pieces. So again, with like the neck, and I've posted this on social media, it's available on my YouTube. And one of my favorite exercises is wall slides, which seems like so simplistic.
Mhm.
But literally, if you lean up against a wall so that your hips, your ribs, and your head are on the wall, your feet do not have to be. And then you put the backs of your hands on the wall and just as if you're doing a snow
The
angel,
snow
slide them
angel,
up
yep.
and down.
Oh, it sounds
That's
so
it.
easy. It's so not.
But that really helps to, again, retrain your brain and body how to keep your shoulders in a, more mechanically efficient position for
Yeah.
movement and is
Yeah.
literally the opposite of what you do at your desk or at your workstation throughout the
Yeah.
day. So
Exactly.
I'd say pick a body area, roll on it for a few minutes. If you need some ideas, I also have a resource for your
Mhm.
listeners of a bodywork starter guide, the 6 places to roll. So if you
Oh,
need a
cool.
starting place, there you go.
That's so great.
I'll give you that link. And then just, pick an exercise. Maybe it's a
Mhm.
plank, maybe it's a side plank, maybe it's the wall slides. Maybe, honestly, in my YouTube, there's a ton of options there. It's all organized, but I would say pick an area, roll it out, do a strengthening exercise, pat yourself on the back, and call it a day.
Well, that sure sounds easy enough. And that
Mhm.
free resource sounds amazing. Like folks who are listening, you definitely should go download that. Do you know the link off the top of your head, Alex? Or
I
I'll put it in the show
do.
notes too.
I do. It's at aewellness.com/bodywork. That's all one word.
Super awesome. Well, this has been a just very enlightening conversation. I think the big takeaways here is that absolutely weight is not the cause of your pain. There's a whole bunch of other factors that could be contributing, and you've given some great tips on how to support ourselves to move and feel better right here, right now. So that's
Mhm.
fantastic. Is there anything else that's pressing on your heart that you want to add today?
Well, first of all, thank you for
Oh,
having
my
me. This has
pleasure.
been delightful. And yeah, exactly that. I do believe that life without pain is possible for everyone, regardless of how long it's been, regardless of what, an MRI or X-ray or some sort of scan says. And all you need to start exploring that is honestly just a curiosity.
Hmm.
So I'm here for those who want to become body detectives, but honestly, just be curious and just get started.
Yeah, I love that. I'm always preaching curiosity myself because, it's the antidote to judgment, and it's how we make change. So, oh, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and your time with us today. Can you please share with our listeners how they can stay in touch with you? Because I'm pretty sure they're going to want to after hearing everything you've shared today.
Yeah, well, you can come if obviously you're a podcast listener, if you're here. I have a podcast as well called The Body Nerd Show, appropriately titled, where I talk more about stuff like this. You can also find me on my website, aewellness.com, and on Instagram at Hala Famala. If you are more of a TikTok person, it's at AE Wellness on TikTok.
Fantastic. Okay, I will link all of that up in the show notes too, so you can find all those links there. Thanks so much, Alex, for being here with us today. I really, really appreciate this conversation.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for tuning into the Power in Motion podcast today. If you love what you're learning here, then I invite you to take the next step of embodying these concepts into your own life so that you can live your healthiest, happiest life and never again feel held back by your body. Coaching is the fastest, most efficient pathway to taking what you know in your head to actually applying it and seeing results. Whether you're looking to make changes around movement, food, body image, or all three, I'm here to help you nurture a kind, respectful, and trusting relationship with your body so you can feel your very best. Click the link in the show notes to book a free consultation, and together we'll uncover what's getting in the way of you having the results you want. You'll leave this call knowing exactly what you need to work on, and together we'll explore whether one of my coaching offers is a good fit for you. I can't wait to meet you.